G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Time for a walkabout and a talkabout. And I want to talk about the Turnbull government's disappearing legitimacy. An event which has occurred over the past 2 or 3 months. It began with the Green Senator Scott Ludlam resigning from Parliament because it turned out that he was a secret dual citizen. And then Penny Waters, another Green Senator, resigned from Parliament because she too was a dual citizen of Canada, I think it was. And then, in a steady stream, Australian politicians were discovered to be dual citizens. One of the juiciest was Barnaby Joyce, my own local federal member of Parliament, leader of the National Party, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister for Agriculture, Minister for Mining and Resources, or something like that. Barnaby Joyce was videoed and was carried in the news. When Penny Waters was discovered to be a secret Canadian, Barnaby Joyce said to the camera, "Ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking the law." That's what he said. And then it turned out that he was actually secretly a dual New Zealand citizen. Why does it matter? Well, it matters because the Australian Constitution states that nobody who has any allegiance to any foreign power is fit to sit in the Australian Parliament. You can't nominate for election if you hold any allegiance to any foreign power. The reason for this is that we Australians, okay, we stole the land at gunpoint, but we began as a convict colony and we've had great miserable experience of being administered by foreign interests for the benefit of foreign markets, foreign shareholders, foreign citizens. So therefore, if you want to sit in the Australian Parliament, if you want to stand for election, you must first diligently research your own ancestry and renounce any and all foreign allegiances. This means that if you've got an ancestor born 3 generations ago in some tin pot little penny ante piss ant of a country like Ireland, where they want to try and boost their population numbers by claiming that 3rd generation descendants of people who migrated a century and a half ago are Irish citizens by descent, you may have to go and renounce your Irish citizenship, your Italian citizenship, your Argentine citizenship, your German or English citizenship. There's lots of countries that pull this trick. It makes them feel bigger, you know, in the same way that a merkin makes somebody who's got bald underpants feel hairier. Okay, so what happens if you make a false affidavit? What happens if you lie? What happens if you sign on the dotted line and you assert that it's absolutely true that you have no foreign allegiances and then it turns out that you did? Like Barnaby Joyce, he's been a parliamentarian, he's been a senator since about 2005. That means he's been in receipt of a federal benefit fraudulently. He was never ever qualified to receive a senator's salary. He was never qualified to receive an MP's salary. He's been in receipt of federal benefits fraudulently. So, okay, what does Barnaby have to say about it? Well, as it happens, you see, that's a question that I'm sort of in a position to answer, or at least report and debate upon. This is a letter which Barnaby sent to me about a week before the High Court actually gave its decision. The same High Court which Malcolm Turnbull stated categorically, absolutely on the floor of Parliament, will hold that Barnaby Joyce was eligible to sit in the Parliament. That's what Turnbull said. That's what he predicted. As a lawyer, he tried to pressure the High Court. I would argue contemptuously. Anyway, let's see what Barney has to say. Dear Mr. Wharton, by now you have probably heard a range of discussions about my citizenship. Yes, I have. Specifically that the New Zealand government considers me a citizen of their country because my father was born there. Full stop. This is despite the fact that, highlighted, I was born right here in New England at Tamworth Base Hospital and have never lived anywhere else but Australia. I want to write to you personally and update you on the issue. Sorry, Barney baby. Right there, that's a straw man. The provisions of Section 44 of the Australian Constitution hold that no person who holds any allegiance to any foreign power shall be eligible to sit in the Australian Parliament. It doesn't matter where you were born. What matters is that New Zealand is a penny-ante, tin-pot piss-ant of a country which tried to swell its population numbers by conferring citizenship by descent onto all of its citizens' children. And that catches you because your father was born there. Life's like that, mate. If you honestly believe that you're able to sell yourself as somebody who cares so much about community values and governance and how Australia operates that you want to sit in Parliament and formulate laws for the governance of Australians, then it is absolutely beholden upon you, Barney Baby Joyce. See that MP? That's bullshit. You were never ever eligible to be sitting in Parliament. Maybe you'll win the by-election, but you're not an MP now. You never have been. Because despite your duty, your obligation to conduct due diligence into your own citizenship before you signed the affidavit which stated you had no foreign allegiances, which you had to sign and submit before standing for election, because you failed to do that out of, I don't know, carelessness, recklessness, hubris, arrogance, ignorance, capriciousness, laziness, for whatever reason, because you felt you were born to rule and you didn't need to bother to try and comply with the citizenship requirements because you were born in Australia and you were too pig ignorant to take due cognizance of the fact that half the countries in the world confer citizenship by descent, and Australia, being an ex-British imperial convict colony, we've had some serious experience of being governed from overseas, being governed by foreign interests, being governed by quislings. Any of you youngsters who don't know what a quisling is, look it up. Quisling, quisling. He was the Norwegian Nazi puppet prime minister. Citizen of one country, loyal to another, a quisling. Now, strangely as it happens, and as the point was made on the Minefield program, this current, well, is it a constitutional crisis or not? This current governmental crisis wherein the Liberal National ex-government now does not command a majority on the floor of the House, and that would be because not only has Barnaby Joyce had to stand aside from Parliament, resign and put himself up for re-election because he was a dual New Zealand citizen at the time that he was elected, whence the Turnbull government obtained a one-seat majority. Take Barnaby away and it's been a hung Parliament for a couple of weeks. Now the news has come out that the Liberal member for Bennelong, one John Alexander I think his name is, he's also a British citizen. So he's resigned. So Turnbull doesn't have the votes to govern. He can't pass any legislation. Bill Shorten's going to have a field day. The Greens called last night or yesterday for the Governor-General to dissolve both houses because we don't know how many more dual citizens are ineligible to sit because the Constitution says you can't have any allegiance. All the smart money is suggesting that what was going on was Barnaby Joyce was being used as a test case. All of the other Liberal and National Party politicians who knew that they had dual citizenship issues have been keeping their heads stuffed so far up their own fundamental posterior passage that they've been using schnorkels to breathe. There's one fellow, the President of the Senate, Stephen Parry, I think his name is, he actually processed Fiona Nash's being referred to the High Court because she was a dual citizen. I don't know whether it was Canadian or Kiwi or British or some bloody thing. Yeah, anyway, Fiona Nash, he sent her paperwork off, and he'd already confessed to a couple of other Liberals, well, you know, like he thought that he was, personally, he might be a British dual national. Nobody in Australia has much confidence in the crew that's in there actually being who they say they are, because they're all sort of trying to keep shit silent. And the really funny thing is, it's not the Penny Wongs and the Sam Dastiaris who are under suspicion. It's all the white fellas. It's all the white women, because they have the idea that there's this white entitlement to rule Australia. They don't need to conform with rules or anything like that. They don't need to worry about false affidavits. They're white and they want to go into Parliament, you know, like they've been here for since they can remember, and that's all it takes, doesn't it? Well, no, it takes more than that. You have to renounce your foreign allegiances before you are fit to make laws to control the likes of me. Because, you know, like, my father's grandfather brought the family DNA to this district in 1882, right? And his son, my grandfather, he married a woman who come from Tinga, Gilgai, and her family'd been there for 30 years before. Like, I've been around for a while, and I don't take kindly to being ruled by foreigners or potential foreigners. So anybody who says, oh, the Constitution is old-fashioned and obsolete and outdated, and what we need to do is just change the Constitution and allow dual citizens to sit in the Australian Parliament. Yeah, right. How long do you reckon it would be then before the Australian Parliament was dominated by people who were born in India and China, and they held dual citizenship, and they just felt like coming to Australia, throwing government money from the home country at an election campaign, stacking the branch meetings, and seeing what sort of a fucking bigger neo-colonial kickback mess they can make out of what's left of Australia. Or maybe they'll come from Argentina. Yeah, I mean, there's reasons why you got to be born in America to be president of America. There's reasons why you have to have zero foreign allegiances. If that means going through the United Nations alphabetically and personally renouncing them, and having a swearing-in ceremony that lasts an hour and a half for everybody as they go through all the possible allegiances that they don't want to have in order to stand in Australian Parliament, that's good enough for me. I'm not interested in having a referendum to change the Constitution, and if you try to hold one, I will vote against it. Just as I will vote against having this careless, reckless, capricious, irresponsible, ignorant, hubristic buffoon return to Parliament to misrepresent me. As the sticker says, anybody but Banana Baby. Vote green or die. Global warming culls. And one of the things that this half-witted buffoon has made absolutely clear is that he does not accept climate science. He does not accept that global warming is an anthropogenic phenomenon. That's why he's so terribly strongly supportive of the Adani coal mine, and it's why he has corruptly mismanaged the Murray-Darling Basin for the exclusive benefit of his mates in the irrigation and salination industry. Barnaby Joyce, the failure. He wants to rule Australia, but the trouble you see with Barney Baby is he suffers from coprolalia. Coprolalia, C-O-P-R-O-L-A-L-I-A, coprolalia. It's the correct medical term for talking a lot of shit. Because it doesn't matter that you were born here, Barnaby. What matters is the fact that you were eligible for New Zealand citizenship and the Kiwis claimed you as one of their own. Therefore, like any dole bludger who commits fraud, you have to pay back the money you stole from Australia and the taxpayers. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao. Arr.